Good morning, crime scene community. I'm here to read out the continuing conversation between Nick Schreck, and Charlie Manson. What do you think about Perry Red Wartum? You said you don't like people play acting you. Charlie Manson. Perry's a good man. Perry is. Perry gave his life for what he believed in. He stood up for what he believed in. You dig? Although I don't agree with the way he did what he did, I'm still in accord with that man. I'm in harmony with him. You dig? In other words, I can be in harmony with other people even though I don't like their particular mode of what you're saying, what you're doing. But again, I've got a lot of friends that are terrible people to other people. To me, Chuckles, a man's just a home, you know. I'm from Kentucky. I'm Kentucky. I live in a country called Moorhead, and they got them long guns. And if in a county jail, Moorhead, and they got them long guns, if they don't know you and don't come up your holler, you know, we got only enough to last us to get through the winter. We keep ours in jars, you dig? What I'm saying, you raised our hogs and cows, laughs, and ain't got no money. We need no money, but I can get through the winter. You dig what I'm telling you? Kick back, and each minute I get up and I worry about getting through the next winter. You dig? Yeah, that winter was long 40 years ago. And I'm the child of Uncle Jess who sent me rolling out of them hills in Kentucky. You dig what I'm saying? I saved his cabin to save his earth, to save his planet, because he stood there and blew himself up with those fucking assholes like this comparing the government maneuvers to Langerman come in and want to take his still away. And shit, the still is referring to a home liquor distillery system. He blew himself. He blew his kids up. He blew everything up. Hound dog, chickens up. He blew the whole thing up. And he blew up what he went into the same eternal dream. You dig what I'm saying? The same eternal dream that have been in jail. Can you understand it? Nick Schreck. What do you think that you got into that eternal dream? Charlie Manson. I've been in jail since 1943. I've been locked up my whole life. So I'm in that dream. I'm not in that dream. I don't get me wrong. I'm not in that dream. I'm only a witness. One little witness. One little fucking little piece of shit in that dream. There's all kinds of people in that dream that are already all down the road. You know, in other words, if you and I were going to prove a point and say we're going to go prove this point, you dig what I'm saying? And we stand up and you knock me down and I say, well, okay, I'll just show you the graveyard. What do you dig I'm saying? And then I say, we get up over the graveyard. If you want to play knock me down, you dig what I'm saying? As long as you're playing knock me down, then get up over the graveyard. And I'll just sit on the other side of the graveyard and watch you go to hell. Nick Schreck, you've talked about the graveyard of veterans. Charlie Manson, yeah, my brother. Nick, so you were born on Veterans Day? Charlie, I'm born right now. Anybody who puts their life on the line for me, I've always been right there with them because I stay right where all the time. I was born and raised there. I stay there all the time, constantly. I'm so much there, you dig what I'm saying? That Japan came over and said, hello, Chuckles. And I said, hi, you dig? In other words, anybody that has any respect would respect me, but any punk that didn't have respect, referring to Langerman, and all the fear of that insecurity, you dig? Then they treat me like a fucking punk that they are. In other words, they are me, all their insecurity. They take the most holy man you dig, and treat him as worse as they can. Degrade him, drag him through all kinds of shit, spit on him, cuss him, just do everything and turn around and go to church and worship him on the Sunday. Then you think you're going to get away with it? Long pause. It don't work that way. Nick Schreck, what do you think would make it work? Charlie Manson, the spirit is in it. The spirit is moving right in. I got to read this thing at the bottom here. Manson's hillbilly Uncle Jess, nicknamed for a great inspiration of the young Manson, supposedly deliberately detoned his moonshine still and himself rather than to surrender to authorities. Manson refers to this non-dual narrative of Abraxas, whose divine mind transcends all opposites, including the moral conception of friend and foe. Charlie Manson, the spirit is in it. The spirit is moving it right now. There's no doubt about it. Now they're all running from 1988 presidential election candidate Jesse Jackson, right? Chuckles, ha ha, they're all making excuses, mockingly in a deep voice. Da 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 da. No, they don't want to get him in the driver's seat, do they? Ha ha ha. And I'm laughing. I'm laughing like crazy, man, because I think when he goes up there and says, well, you know what we got here? We're gonna find out he's got a fucking bunch of bullshit there too. Makes no difference what they call you. Yeah, I call you a boo-scoo, and you're the commander of Man Scam, you know? That's what this means. We got to live with what you do, you dig? And these people that cut off my mail off, let me tell you what they do to me. They cut off my mail. They give this to the next wave of little kids that they grew up to. They cut off my mail off. They lie. They cheat. They got some big old fat woman that dressed the paint that faces and shit and dye her hair, and they cut the legs off the table so the little girls can't get over and play with the little guys. And these all kinds of little sex paranoias and the little deceiving little things, cheating little things that they play, and then they push them off on someone else and they say it all their fault. And that's no good. And we got the bad guys all locked up over here, and we all got the good guys. You dig what I'm saying? When in reality, man, chuckles underneath his breath, we got actually a bunch of scurvy fucking protective custody motherfucking pieces of shit. You dig what I'm saying? But what's on one hand, now here's where Abraxas comes in. If they don't have the love to do it, then in the fuck would. Who would respect in the world? Who do you respect in the world? Charlie Manson. I respect the same fucking asshole that came down every day. That's Abraxas, man. Well, roll on it, and we become rolling on it over since he came to the tier. He comes on the tier. I'm going to say, fuck you, you son of a bitch. Throw shit, and I piss in his face. Dig what I'm saying? Knock him down. And he comes back and forth, feeds me with it, and lets me live. And then he lets me live, and then I look back at him, and he says, well, Chuckles, you know, you've got so bad after all if you let me live, so now I have to let you live. So as long as I'm in here, I got to let him live because he's the only living in my life. Nick Schreck, you talk about the spirit of the father a lot. Charlie, yeah. What do you think about feminism? And feminism, matriarchy versus patriarchy? Charlie Manson, oh, I'm a matriarch. I'm a beautiful woman. I'm a very beautiful woman. He turns his hands up and down his body, mimicking a hoochie coochie dancer. All the women know that, laughs. All my women know that. Nick Schreck, do you have any good memories of the people who you were? All of them, sure. They're all beautiful. Tex is beautiful. Tex got off his, Tex got up and gives. Then he tries to walk around and say, makes groovy sounds and gestures to indicate Tex Watson's flexibility and willingness while the Manson chicka chabin woo, and here is where and for a while. And we were fearing new things and we were experiencing our bodies and stuff. And you dig when he decided that he wanted to go back into what his mother was doing. And I looked over at him and said, well, if you can laugh, if you can get new over in there and you can dig what I'm saying, go ahead and see what you can find out. But I'll tell you everything on this finger, it's over there. And I'll say you a long trip. But if he wants to go back through, Jesus loves me. You dig what I'm saying? He wants to go back and worship and play all the games that we've played for 2,000 years. And if he wants to do, it's okay with me. I'm still right. They're saying, all right, like exasperating chuckle. And that's what you want to do. But you're the only destroying yourself, man. You see, not every time I come down off this, he embodies I here as Jesus on the cross with his arms spread out. that makes him bird in flight motion as if he acts out flying of a cross with a swooping down sound effect. Swoosh! And you don't like me, and I'm no good son of a bitch because I put a piece of steel right here on my leg and it's hewn, a drawled version of honed, and then it's sharpened instrumental, and I can cut anything with any place I want to cut, and I can live within the spirit of me. I don't push it off on nobody else. You dig what I'm saying? And I'll stand back and give other people their space. You see what I'm saying? But if they don't give me respect, I'm sending all of them back around. Grasping at the air, Manson captures a lack of respect as a type of energy ball, a subtle body of negativity in his hands. Then, in a sweeping, measured arm movement reminiscent of Tai Chi, he physically pitching it back out there with the karate-like sound effect of the viewers. He-chiri-ya, I'm sending it all back around. Tia-chia. See what I'm saying? Because I live in my mind. Nick Schreck. Do you think your mind has power in this world? Charlie, chuckling. Whoa, I would imagine, yes. Nick Schreck. Even though you're here, yeah, the last wave of these guys interfering to the prison officials in the interview room, the last wave of these guys that sent me to Vacaville. Now Manson is visibly cursing Langerman more with his eyes than his words, are all gone now. Pauses for effect while keeping eyes locked on Langerman. Dr. Morgan blew his brains out, now vibrating with intent as he pauses to stare down Langerman after making the last point. Nick Schreck, do you think that you have an effect on what happens in the world because of cutting off before finishing? Charlie, oh yeah, definitely. I'm out there in the highway. His banner is punctured by a private thought which strikes him funny and is manifested on a spontaneous outburst of laughter incongruent to what he's saying. I'm sure I'm out there in the highway. I'm out there in the highways, in Big Drag, and in the underworld. I'm out there in Hawaii. I'm out there in all kinds of different things. You might say I'm kind of like Satan in so many places at once. Shio chuckles. Yeah, it would be Satan. It would be very sharp for one person to do all the things that I'm going to have to do to survive, pointing to Schreck. You too, pointing to cameraman. And then you too, chuckles, pointing to Langerman and the officer, and impishly yet impiously pointing into the camera at the viewers. And you too, see, the judgments are, however I judge anything, I judge it that's what's inside of me because I see everything. I see it from what's inside of me. The man in the mirror with hands he pantomimes getting gestures against the mirror. I go beyond, pause the man in the mirror because I see the mirror. Continuing the pantomime, he motions to carefully place the mirrors like playing cards down on the evils of the roads. Dig? Nothing Shrek's uninvited attention on what he's saying. Manson lowers his voice into a conspiratorial near whisper, whispering slowly and with purpose to each word, and it's some sort of mystical psyops, phonic cipher. Moving in closer to Schreck, Manson wants to show him something, believing if there is anything underlying private message meant to imply for Schreck, which may or may not be due directly to what he's actually saying. He fumbles with his collar, opens it, and pulls something out of the shirt, revealing to be a miniature noose. He's woven it out of threads into a necklace, and I set it with those little nooses. Then your children come into me, and I hang them on their ventilators according to what I need to be and want to have to get done, to weave my patterns, to do whatever I have to do to survive in the place where, the pictures where we live. Nick Schreck. Where did you go to Death Valley? Or unintelligible, you got a home? Charlie Manson. I started all over. I started with the rebirth movement. We started with the rebirth movement in that Carter stole, meaning Jimmy Carter. You guys outside don't realize everything we do in here, and we all play off and tell you that that's them. If I dig a foundation for a house, somebody will step on it and say, mocking a voice and a bombastic politician, yes, this is my foundation here. And I've, right, in other words, in the United States, when you're running for the United States and ain't running nothing but nothing but bullshit and nothing but devil, you're running but nothing but demon. The United States of America is the demon of the world. It's the Satan of the world. Nick Schreck, where do you go when you get to be out of here? Charlie Manson. Where I am, because I can't really move. I'm in here. I'm here and I move out there and I'm still over here and I move over there and I'm still there. And in other words, wherever I go, I'm still there. I call that Pice. Pice, I'm from Pice, the lichen, a compound word coined by Manson consisting of two sounds alike, the kin or lichens. Nick Schreck, you want to explain a lichen to people who don't understand it? Charlie Manson, well, I like you. You know, I look around to me, man, you dig what I'm saying, so I can accept you as a lichen. And when I accept you as a lichen, you're like kin to me because I never had a family, see? And you're like my kin. You're like kin to me. You know, and I accept you completely and totally into that. And the way through your mother's relationship and your father's relationship, all them little relationships that you guys had, I didn't have that because I was over there in reform school, boys' school. I had the relationship of the guys over there in boys' school, over in the basketball court. The basketball court is my kingdom. It always has been ever since I lived in solitary confinement. Nick Schreck, do you think that's your destiny? Charlie Manson, no, not a destiny, it's that. We all do what we have to do to survive. You put a child down here and I'll survive. That this long, you know, I'm 40. I'm over 40 years in prison and I'm saying I'll survive you. How do you think people are going to remember you? I don't think that they ain't going to be anybody to remember anything. You know, they're destroying everything. They destroy all the way down to the coyotes and the wolves and the scorpions and the bugs and the snakes. And, you know, probably a few of us fake, phony son of a bitches sitting over looking at things saying, hey, yeah, that's an old rerun in Mars. Some of them break tape. Charlie Manson prompted the scene. The following names mentioned in the first edition of the Manson File. A newer bitter tangent is triggered. You go over there and you get Boyd Rice. You tell Boyd Rice, say, you caused Charlie Manson to be locked up for 3 years in the fucking hole. I got up your ass unless you do exactly what I tell you to do. You dig what I'm saying? And you take that big dickhead you got, you dig what I'm telling you to do, and I'm going to pay you. So what I'm saying, in other words, you don't need money, not for this road, not where I'm running from. You dig what I'm saying? You come from religion now. You dig what I'm saying? They're inaudible due to interference with microphone. Yes, what I'm saying. Well, we got the other end of it. We got the other end of that. We got the sharp end of that. We got what I'm saying. In other words, in a sweet mocking voice, it's nice to be nice, but let's face it, good don't have no power over evil. Nick Schreck, nice guys finish last. Manson was incarcerated for many years in Vacaville Correctional Medical Facility, an institution notorious for its treatment of mentally ill inmates. Vacaville therapy at one time included CIA-sponsored experiments. A Vacaville state psychiatrist, again, found the U.S. President Jimmy Carter's widely publicized religious convictions are frequently credited as sparking the populist evangelical Baptist renaissance known as the born-again movement. The not-so-veiled threat was inspired when Rice, when employed as a night watchman, visited Manson in San Quentin with a bullet concealed in his person. When the bullet was discovered by prison officials during the routine search, Rice was permanently barred from visiting the prison. As a result, Manson was arbitrarily sentenced to solitary confinement, even though he was not responsible for the incident. Rice later drifted out of Manson's orbit and became one of the occult entrepreneur Anton LaVey's most zealous reporters. I think we're going to end here. This is a continuing long chapter between Charlie and Nick. So I have a couple records to show real quick. Give me a chance to show these records. I did a little shopping yesterday. This is a guy I knew in high school. His name was the leader of the Guess Who, Burton Cummings. Yeah. I knew Burton Cummings in high school. I don't think he was that nice of a guy. I don't know what his trip was. I didn't get to know him that well. There's the gatefold of the Burton Cummings record, which I knew in high school. This next one is Boss Skaggs. I knew the guy in high school, the drummer, Jeff Beccaro, played drums for me in high school. Here's the Jackie Gleason movie theme. We don't want to go on the Jackie Gleason show with President Kennedy and get zoomed to Area 51. So we're going to say thanks to all the vinyl community members. And if you think I'm speaking any truth here, please like and subscribe. God bless the children.